Very warm welcome, MATÚŠ. Thanks a lot for coming. And I would like to introduce you very quickly. If there's something new I missed, please feel free to add some information about you. So welcome to the COST webinar on war against Ukraine, and today specialized on energy policy. We have MATÚŠ with us. He's professor at the Department of Political Science at the Comenius University in Bratislava. And his main research interests include energy security in the EU and the role of perception within EU decision-making mechanisms. He's author of External Energy Security in the European Union and co-editor of From Economic to Energy Transitions, 3 decades of transitions in Central and Eastern Europe, and of Energy Humanities, Current State and Future Directions, only to mention some of his great books. And he has published such a lot of articles that I cannot even mention them all. So he is the real specialist on EU external energy policy or energy policy in the EU as such. So, MATÚŠ, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. I will be playing a little bit with the buttons here. I hope I will manage to share my slides. And I would just like to, first of all, thank Michelle and everybody for having me here today. It's a great honor. I've been researching energy security of European Union for last 13 years, more or less. There was a little break when I started to focus on energy transition. And now, because of the latest development, we are kind of I'm coming back to energy security, but it's a little bit different from what I experienced before, because now the energy transition and decarbonization energy policy is kind of coming back. Coming back together, because it's very closely connected, and that's something I will be also talking about. So I'm not sure what is the plan for Q&A session, but if anybody has a immediate question, I'm happy to answer immediately. So, but if there is a different system in place, I don't want to just destroy existing systems. So whatever is more suitable. So I would just basically my main topic, or what I'm going to talk about, is that what is the EU's reaction to the current situation, and maybe why the reaction is the way it is. Because I personally think that it should have been a little bit more. It should be faster and stricter. When it comes to energy policy. It's not, but I think that because of how the energy policy looks like and how the external dimension of EU energy policy looks like, especially the part where it's non-existent, is one of the main reasons why the EU does what it does when it comes to energy. Because there's a lot of talk about how the EU needs to stop fueling the war by providing so much gas and oil money to Russia. There is not really that much steps done there haven't been so many steps done in this direction. And I will be talking a little bit about the oil sanctions and how the original idea was transformed into something that doesn't really have teeth. Definitely not nowadays. And the same goes for coal sanctions that are not very effective at this point in time. So the European Union does have energy policy. I'm trying to provide very general background. I apologize to all the energy policy experts in the audience. I don't want to go into too many specifics from the beginning. So the EU has energy policy. It has been developing energy policy basically from late 1980s. And later this energy policy there was a convergence of a sort with the climate policy. for a reason I'll get to later. But nowadays we have to talk about energy and climate policy. These two are very closely connected. The main reason is that if you want to decarbonize, or if you want to do anything in climate policy, you need to do things in energy policy, because energy and climate is so closely interlinked, because energy is the main emitter of pollutants. So if you want to decrease amount of CO2 or other greenhouse gases emissions, you have to first look into the energy system. So that's why we are, or these two policies were kind of merged at the EU level. But coming back from the to the 90s and 2000s, the EU started a process of liberalization of energy policy or energy systems. There was the main idea was to develop a common internal energy market, which would be similar to other parts of the common EU markets, meaning that there would be a competition among different players, and the main winner would be the end consumer, us. Basically, the people would benefit from this, because there would be a competition between different retailers, between different entities, the different sellers, and because there will be competition, the market rules dictate that the price should go down on the one hand, but on the other hand, also the end consumers should be in a better position, because it would be much easier to change supplier. So if we would be unhappy with our current energy supplier, then we would switch to another one. And this was especially, I mean, this liberalization process was done in two sectors or subsectors of energy policy, electricity and natural gas, because these two subsectors have specific traits that make them very prone to be monopolized, and this specific the specificity is connected to infrastructure. I don't think so I need to go into more detail at this point, because this is not the point of this presentation. So there was not really a lot of room for energy security. There was a little bit, and I will talk about this a little bit later, what was the energy security part of all of this. But this was not really focused on energy security. This was focused on, or this process was focused on energy, on the end consumer, making decreasing price of energy, of electricity and natural gas, and making truly liberalized market where people can choose from different suppliers. And I think we kind of reached to the point where this is true. There are still some limitations, but more or less we can choose our supplier, which was a little bit also a problem at the end of last year. And again, come back to what was happening in autumn 2021 in the next slides. So once this was done around 2000, mid 2000s, then or late 2000s, the other issue was decarbonization, and the EU started to focus on the issue how to limit the CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gases emissions, because EU decided to decarbonize its economy in order to support the 2050. I mean, the overall goals, the global goals of decreasing emissions, mitigate climate change, and fight against rise of temperature, global temperature. Again, there was not really that much room for energy security in this, although there was, again, a little bit. And energy security was kind of an externality to this. I will come back also to this a little bit later. But energy policy, energy security wasn't really a priority. And then at the very end of the 2000s, in 2009, there was a gas crisis when no gas flowed to Europe via one pipeline. And this affected a couple of countries, but didn't really go anywhere. there were some changes, but these changes were mostly connected to internal energy market, and the fact that the EU is dependent on imports from abroad was not really addressed. Was addressed to a limited degree again, but wasn't central. And now what we see since autumn 2001 is that the situation is really changing very, very fast, mostly because I mean, what is happening? Currently, it's very clear. It's 17th of June today. 2 days ago, several EU customers or supplies of several EU customers from Russia were interrupted. So now it's no more a regional issue. It's much more global European issue when it comes to the interruption of natural gas flows to the EU. However, the EU is still showing only very limited unity, and national interests prevail. And I will be talking about the oil sanctions, where the national interests really prevailed in a very visible way. But we can see it also in the case of natural gas, because actually there is no discussion on sanction when it comes to Russian natural gas, because the countries just don't want that. We can go into details of why this might be the case later on, but natural gas is very specific and very politically sensitive, because end consumers, people use it for heating, for example. So then when there is no gas during the winter, then it's a question of people not having means to heat their homes. So this is very, very sensitive, not only from the economy point of view, but also from the political point of view. So this can be one of the reasons why natural gas cannot be really touched, or is not touched during these discussions. Of course, big industry is also plays a role there. What I think would really help the current situation is a common policy that would unite EU's position towards third countries. This is something that we don't have. There is a common policy when it comes to internal energy market I spoke about, but when it comes to relationship with third countries, there is no common policy yet. And in spite of everything, in spite of this very strong focus on energy security, decarbonization, and the idea to decrease carbon footprint of Europe, of the EU, is still on the table, and it's being linked to energy security. But this is something that that will be done from a mid and long-term perspective. So we cannot decarbonize our economy like this year, and we need to do something this year, because otherwise we'll be having trouble the coming winter, because the winter is coming. I really wanted to phrase it differently, but the winter is coming, and for now we were preparing for the next winter, not for the winter of 2022-23, but for the winter 23-24. We thought that it will be enough, but from day before yesterday, I have a feeling that because of this is a real interruption of natural gas flow to Europe. The storages are not as full as we would like them to be in such case, and they need to be fuller in order for us to have a comfortable winter, let's put it this way. Obviously, things will probably start, not probably, but I think that things will start much faster nowadays. I mean, these things are happening now, so it's very difficult to comment on, but I think that in coming weeks, we will see quite a strong change in position. But this is just me speculating. Okay, the next slide, I hope I will be able to change it. Okay, so I'm sure that everybody has noticed the steep rise of energy prices over a couple of last months, but there was development since like September 2021. In the right upper corner, we can see the development of a price on a spot market, which is kind of a short-term market for energy, natural gas retailers or natural gas actors. And these prices are to a certain level connected to other types of gas markets, so-called long-term. They are connected to long-term contracts. So basically we have a long-term contract and a short-term market. And these two markets are very closely connected, not to 100%, but usually they follow each other after certain period when it comes to price. So basically, the overall trend, we can see that there is a steep decrease of price of natural gas, and this steep decrease of price of natural gas translates usually also into, or the price change of natural gas translates into price change of electricity, because natural gas is used for electricity production to a certain degree, at least for regulation. So there is a link there, and at the beginning of this process, there were a lot of kind of arguments. There were several arguments why this was happening. And the first argument was that this is caused by renewables because they are very expensive. So they're, and they need backup. And then they are increasing price of electricity. They're increasing price of natural gas, which is needed to support them. So we should kind of get rid of, or we should stop being so active when it comes to renewables, and we should kind of look other ways. We should look to fossil fuels, because this is caused by post-pandemic recovery and the increased interest in energy in the post-pandemic period. Later, it was argued that this is not really the case. Later, it was argued that what happened was that Gazprom started to play its energy games, and Russia started to use energy as a weapon, meaning that Russia, for example, stopped supplying extra gas for short-term markets, and also what was found out after that, or at the end of the 2021, was that Gazprom slowed down very much the speed or the pace of filling the storages in the European Union member countries. I'll come back to this issue a little bit later. So this impacted EU citizens. I mean, this impacted all of us. The graph on the right bottom, the one from the European Commission, is showing the relative change of price, and it shows that not only gas and electricity, but also gasoline went up, and diesel as well. And these are only numbers until January 22. So there was some more increase of price in the meantime. The direct impact on citizens was that we have to pay more for all types of energy, more for heating, more for electricity, more for gasoline. The indirect was that energy is needed in every single step of a production of everything. So this had to be translated somehow to the final price of everything. So now everything is more expensive, and that fuels also the inflation. So the inflation that we see now is partially connected to the increased prices of energy. And there was also an issue connected to the liberalized market, because during the 10+ years of fully liberalized market, even maybe more, or basically almost 20, there were many companies who were offering very good energy prices, I mean, very good prices of natural gas, of electricity, which was based in many cases on their ability to find cheap gas and electricity on some spot markets, on some small markets where there would be an extra gas at certain time, and there will be, I mean, they knew what they were doing, but this was based on the ability of extra cheap energy because of the system, how the system was set. And all of a sudden, this supply of this cheap energy dry up. So these companies were not able to fulfill their promises to their customers. They were not able to supply their customers with energy for natural gas and electricity for a certain price. So they went bankrupt. And this was happening especially in the second half of last year, in many countries, in Slovakia, Czech Republic, in Germany, I know, in the UK, there were like dozens and dozens of companies with millions and millions of customers who went bankrupt. So then the customers were not, they were not left without any energy, but they were left in hands of what we called suppliers of last resort. Sorry, I have a typo there. I don't know why I wrote demand. Suppliers of last resort. And these are companies that are supposed to kind of step in when there is a problem like this one. So the end customers, the people wouldn't, the households wouldn't be left without electricity or without natural gas. The problem there is that the price that they are allowed to charge this type of customers is much higher than their ordinary price. So there are millions and millions of people who left with much higher electricity and natural gas bills because their original company is bankrupt, and now the suppliers of last demand stepped in, but they were allowed to charge much more. And why I'm talking about price is that price is very important part of energy security. It's one of usually 3-4 main characteristics of energy security. So this is very, very closely connected to the second issue that was happening also since autumn 2021, and that's the availability. This was affordability. Prices usually, I mean, price is often connected to the concept of affordability, and another concept or another characteristic of energy security is availability, and this is connected to the supply of natural gas, which has been also limited since autumn 2021. One very important thing that is happening in the natural gas sector during summer is that the storages, the huge underground storages are being filled during summer when there is very low demand for natural gas for heating. There is a constant demand for industry, but also industry is not going for 100% during summer because of summer holidays and everything. So the natural gas sector uses this opportunity to pump the extra gas into underground gas storage, and this gas is then later during the winter used to cover the extra demand, which wouldn't be able to be covered by a standard infrastructure, because during winter we need much more gas than the pipelines and LNG carriers and everything else is able to deliver, and that's why we are using the underground storages. So underground storages weren't invented originally for emergency situations, although they can also serve as emergency storages, but they were developed and built to cover the seasonal peaks. Let's put it this way. So during winter there is much higher demand than the infrastructure is able to deliver, so we have underground storage. And if you play with this on a big scale, like Gazprom was able to play last year, because it had control over several big underground storages, especially in Germany. Gazprom didn't fill it into the level that were kind of not requested at the time, but recommended. But because it was only recommended, they didn't really have to, so they didn't. And then at the second half of the year, in like August, September, October, when it was time to start using the gas from the underground storages, then there was not enough in Europe in general, because gas, and this kind of also pushed the prices up because there was just not as much gas as previous years. And here on the right up corner, you can see a graph which shows how much gas there was on the 20th of January of each year. So kind of, if you want to read this, so basically 2022 numbers are talking about the amount of gas that was pushed into the or injected into the underground storages in 2021. So basically, it's the injection was happening a year before the graph shows the available gas. So if you look on the data connected to 2022, you can see that the bar is very low, and also the bar shows the absolute amount, and the line shows the how much percentage there was in the underground storage at that time, and it was less than 50%. It's actually, I think it's 45 on the 20th of January 2022, which was caused by very low injections during the summer of 2021. And as you can see, this is a new record when it comes to relative amounts during the last 11 years. When it comes to absolute amount, there was less in 2011, but in 2011 the underground storages were much smaller. So although in 2021 there was less gas in absolute terms, this meant more than 60% of storage in relative terms. And you can see when the bar meets the line, it means that that's when the upgrades ended, and that's when the absolute amount stayed the same, because between 2011 and 2017 there were many upgrades to many underground storages, so there is much more underground storage now in the Europe than it used to be in like 2011. So the problem here is that, and that's the other graph on the bottom, it shows that compared to the average between 2016 and 2020, in 2021 there was much less natural gas in underground storage since basically July of that year. Fortunately, the winter of 21-22 was very warm, so households didn't, and heating in general, didn't use so much gas for this purpose. So there was at the end of the heating season, there was much less gas spent than usually during the heating season. So we got kind of lucky, but if we wouldn't get lucky, we would probably use all gas, and there will be no gas at all in the underground storages, which creates also some technological challenges. So this kind of created problems for this winter. So the last winter were kind of created problems for this winter, because now there was a race to fill the underground storages to a maximum possible. And in the meantime, a new rule was adopted at the EU level that the underground storages needs to be filled to 80% by November of each year. So in order to fulfill this requirement, all the actors responsible for underground storage were rushing to get as much gas as possible. And this again pushed the price higher. Also during spring, when there should not be that much demand for natural gas, but there was, because of the effort to inject as much gas into the storages as possible. And on top of the problems with storage, there have been some disruptions on different pipelines. Basically, by now, on all three main pipelines from from Russia to Europe on Brotherhood, Yamal, and now also on Nord Stream 1. Nord Stream 2 was shelved in the meantime, and there was also interruption on the pipeline to Finland and also to Lithuania. So, I mean, the Lithuania said themselves that they don't want any more gas, but I think it was kind of a tug of war between Lithuania and Russia, who was first. And all of this, on top of all of this, came the invasion, which further brought so many new problems also for EU energy policy. So the EU, I'm confident to say that the EU has an energy security problem. I think that many people would agree with me. And the main problem, the main reason why this is so is that the EU is dependent on external energy supplies. And on the graph on the right top side, we can see that there is kind of a steady increase in EU's dependency on external supplies. There was a period when dependency was decreasing. It was after the economic downturn at the beginning of 2010s, yeah, when there was an overall slowdown of economy, which translated into lower demand, which translated into lower import. But then since 2012, 2013, there is quite a huge increase in dependency, in EU's dependency on external supplies. Then there was a sharp decrease again in 2010, but that's the overall decrease caused by the pandemic. Russia is the biggest supplier, as we can see in the graph on the bottom. The EU imports more than half of what it actually produces itself when it comes to energy. And kind of the devil that is always in detail about those 41.7% is that this includes also nuclear energy, which in many cases is based on Russian nuclear fuel, especially in Central and Eastern Europe. So not always, even in the region, but in many cases. So this almost 2% is really like an overall number that has some which details are again important to kind of understand that it's even worse than this graph shows. And the domestic production is decreasing. For example, Brexit caused a lot of domestic production to go outside of the EU. Also, the Netherlands decreased its production because of geological issues, and they were unable to continue taking more gas from the Groningen field because it was dangerous, literally. But in spite of all of this, there was not really that much interest in energy security. And what happened after the 2009 gas crisis at the EU level was that the solution was inwards looking. So the EU started to do something, quite a lot of things, and it helped energy security to a certain level, but it didn't address this problem of dependency on import. So, for example, there has been a lot of new infrastructure being developed within the European Union, because one of the lessons from the 2009 gas crisis was that there was a lot of gas in the EU during the time, but there was not enough physical interconnection. There were not enough physical interconnectors between individual states. So the gas that was in the Europe and was available was unable to get to those member states that needed it because there was no pipe. So this lesson was transformed into so-called projects of common interest, which are projects that are supported by European Commission to extra level and also financially. And thanks to this project, or thanks to this initiative, there were many pipelines being built, and there is no more a country within the European Union that is not connected to other country by grid, electricity grid, or by pipelines in a bi-directional way. And there are also some other technical aspects. There were also some rule changes. For example, there was a new rule that says that it's called N-1 rule. This is a rule that says that if a country loses its main loses supplies through its main infrastructure, like this is the N-1, it still needs to be able to supply all its customers, and if it's not able, even if the N-1 rule is in place, then a solidarity principle comes into the play. And the solidarity principle requires neighboring country to help a member in need under certain conditions. So now basically, when a country has an energy security problem, it can request support from other countries, from the especially neighboring countries, and then they're obliged under certain condition to help the country. But all of these rules and changes kind of assume that the amount of gas that is coming to the EU is sufficient. So that these rules don't address the issue how to get gas into the European Union, or oil for that matters. There were a couple of initiatives that were dealing with this. They were focused on energy policy, let's put it this way. In 2015, there was Energy Union that was first invented as or proposed as energy security issue or energy security initiative. It was done by then Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who later became president of the European Commission. But then he was the Polish Prime Minister, and he suggested creation of a common purchase he wanted to create a system of a common purchase of natural gas, which would allow the EU member states to purchase bulk of natural gas for basically the whole EU as a single unit. This was not really supported by many other countries, so it didn't go anywhere. But the Energy Union became an initiative of the European Commission in 2015, and it became an umbrella policy basically, and covered almost all aspects of energy policy, but all aspects of energy policy that are being part of the European Union. So there were still some issues that were not covered in energy policy because they are in hands of national states. Then in 2019, European Green Deal was proposed and actually also adopted by member states, but disconnected mostly to decarbonization issues and climate issues, and energy security was not part of it, or not the main part of it. It was a little bit part of it because kind of as an externality to both internal market functioning and also the decarbonization efforts, energy security is present, because energy security should be achieved by, or is to a certain level achieved by, increased competition between market players, and is also increased by replacing of fossil fuels that are being imported from abroad by domestic renewables. So both intermarket development and decarbonization helped also energy security, but this was only to a certain level, and energy security wasn't in the forefront of these initiatives. The same goes for post-pandemic recovery, which where the EU decided it wants to be that the recovery should be interconnected with decarbonization, meaning that there will be like two birds killed with one stone, because the post-pandemic recovery needs to be, I mean, there has to be a recovery. So if this is going to be a recovery of some kind of investment into economy, it should be green investment, and this green investment will help also not the recovery but also decarbonization. So those would be the two birds killed with one stone. I'm afraid I'm talking way too long, so I will speed things up a little bit now. The natural gas will be definitely part of EU energy sector for years to come. Not until 2050. I mean, still a little bit in 2050, but in like next decades or 2 decades, decrease of natural gas will be decreasing. The amount of natural gas will be decreasing, but there will be still some natural gas in the system, and that's why the EU needs to kind of do something, or should do something, or is doing something in this matter. And this is going to this is an issue connected to natural gas mostly, but also I mean, the problem of energy security is connected to natural gas, but also to other sectors, also to oil sector, for example, and to a certain level also to electricity. And the main problem is that not all member states are interested in this topic. And again, I would like to stress that maybe these couple of days and what is happening with the supplies of many EU member states, maybe this will mean a big change in this position of these member states, probably. But the thing is that member states still have some issues in their own hands, and these issues are connected to energy mix, and this is interpreted also as a competence to decide where member states are going to get their energy from. So therefore, there can be a common external energy policy only if all member states will agree on creation of one. But we can see also recently, we have seen recently with the oil sanctions that this is not really happening, because the Commission proposed strict sanctions, and the result are sanctions that are not that strict and which are being delayed by some time, for some countries quite substantially. So these sanctions don't really have a lot of teeth. This is and what this enables, what this continuation of the, let's call it, traditional approach of the European Union when it comes to relationship with third countries or energy exporters, enables the Commission, the Russian, to keep playing its divide and rule approach, which I wrote in a wrong order on the slide. Sorry about that. So the Russia is playing its energy weapon. It's doing its best to divide member states, because the unity would really put a lot of tools into European Union hands when it comes to energy policy. But in the current situation, when there is 27 member states who are kind of cooperating to a very limited degree, these 27 countries are, some of them are stronger, but many of them are very, very weak. And this is something that Russia really likes these days, and also from a long-term perspective. So if the EU would find a common ground and would decide on a common voice, energy voice, it would create really a big player with a lot of energy and also political power. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm looking forward to the Q&A session.
Thank you, Matúš. Thanks a lot. So, there were so many topics, and I have noted so many questions already. But first, I would like to give the floor to the audience. So, please either write your question into the chat and I can read them out, or just join and ask a question. If not, and if you need time, I will start with one so people have time to think about theirs, not to lose time here. Matúš, I have a question, because I'm always wondering with that storage, because most people have in mind a storage is there for energy security. You mentioned it is not, but people always think, oh, this is the state storing gas for the winter or for emergencies, like we have it with this oil reserve we store for 3 months to cover 3 months. But it's not the case. These are the storages are run by private firms, and the ones who are putting in gas and taking out are most, at least in Germany, I don't know if that's true for the whole EU, but in Germany, these are traders. I mean, the people who trade with gas, they just store there for the winter times and so on. So I was really wondering, since the day before yesterday, when Nord Stream 2 was cut back, all in all now 60%, Jamal is nearly not a lot coming, the other one also. So I was thinking, okay, that means prices will go up even more. What is if all the traders put their gas on the market, and because they will sell it when the price is really high? Will they really wait till winter? Will they not sell it before to make money? Then our storages will unfill. We'll get sorry, it will get to the point where we were in let's say March or so. I mean, the situation, especially in Germany, and you know it, was traumatic in the beginning of the year, because the 1/4 is owned or was owned by Gazprom now under the I don't know actually the English term, but from the state is looking after that now. But I mean, we had really filling levels of 2-3%. I didn't even know that you can take out so much, and I thought it would collapse after under 5%, but they were nearly to 1%. Are we aware that it can happen that the storages go down even before winter? And then what we are doing, because I calculated it once. I mean, I'm not a fancy economist and I don't have these fancy models, but it's easy. You can calculate it with a calculator. Even with 90% storage, we will miss like 20% of the gas. So what we are doing if we have a storage of 20%, you know, I'm really, really concerned about that winter, I have to say. That might lead us into a real recession in Germany.
Yeah, you are totally right. Fortunately, and everybody obviously expected something like this, because the new rules that I don't know whether it was European. I mean, these are the new rules. I hope they are already adopted by everybody at the EU level, that there is an obligation now to have 80% of storage by November. It was a recommendation until this winter. So there were kind of there was a recommended level for each month, how much storage there should be. Now it's a requirement. So now it's a law. So I hope that this will prevent traders and other actors to play with the gas in the storage during the summer, because they have to fulfill this requirement. And I think this is exactly what was behind the decision to come up with this new rule. I think there are different actors who are in charge in storages during in different member states. So this actually very nicely illustrates the complexity of the problem, and that every member state basically needs a different approach. So to find a common one or the common rules, it's very difficult. So some actors wouldn't get through the cracks and wouldn't able to abuse the system or find a way how to not fulfill the requirements. And I think I didn't know about those 2-3% of German storages, because fortunately in many cases this was much better in many countries, because the overall winter was very, very nice and warm, and nothing dramatic was happening from a perspective of Europe. But this is very dramatic from the perspective of that particular storage, because they can collapse. So
I was really wondering, you know, and this was the biggest one in Reden, you know, the one who was sold to Gazprom just after the annexion of the Crimea, you know, the really biggest one we have. But there you can see that it was, I think you can see in that example that it was a political decision driving this, because you said since autumn we have problems with the gas supply. And I think it was a reduction politically motivated by the Russian state through Gazprom, in order not to fill our storages, in order to already put that down and start from a low level. So they knew they would invade Ukraine, and so we will have all these gas problems to put the pressure, because you could really see it. I was wondering why the gas coordination group didn't react. I mean, maybe they reacted and we don't know it, but you cannot really see. I mean, there must have been blinking red lights since October, November latest, no?
And there were blinking red lights. Bruegel, or how to pronounce them, think tank was publishing papers already in like October, November about this. So it was already 15% about in October from average. So that was the problem was, everybody knew that the problem was coming.
But I didn't see anything from the coordination group, you know, I mean.
And I think the bigger problem here is that Gazprom, they had troubles to understand EU rules, like around 2010, and so it was obviously the third liberalization package. They didn't really understand it in the connection with Nord Stream. But then I think somebody realized that when they will learn the rule of the game, they can start playing the European Union. And I think this is what is happening, that they know that traders are panicky from time to time, quite often, when there is not enough gas, and when there are signals that there is going to be a problem, everybody is going to panic, because I mean, also from the graphs, it looks like there was just some panicky situations, because the gas price eventually went down on the spot market. So there were some really like periods when everybody was panicking, and then things just calmed down because more gas didn't come to Europe. No. So that this, for me, it really looks like they upgraded their energy weapon a little bit, quite a bit, I would say. They learn how to deal with this, and they learn how to abuse this, because we have to play by the rules. Everybody here, they don't really have to play by the rules. They found the way how to not play by our rules, and how to use our rules for their advantage. And I would totally sign up for what you just said about them getting ready for the invasion.
And I mean, now the discussion about having 60% less through Nord Stream 1. Okay, I can understand there might be a problem, a technical problem, but you have 2 other pipelines, you know. I mean, that is not a reason. I mean, this is no reason for not delivering. It is clearly there, putting pressure and I think it's putting the gas price more up, because you can sell less, because people are, you know, the gas demand is going down. So having the same amount of money with the gas, because I don't know where it was, but there was saying that, yeah, they more than doubled their gas delivery to China. Never, ever, because how can you put more through that one Siberian Tiger, or how she's called, that pipeline is called, you know? You cannot put more than more. I mean, it's already filled very much. I mean, so it cannot be that you doubled it, and you cannot go to LNG so fast. So I don't believe these figures, you know. I think this is making more money with less gas.
I mean, they can always double. If it's 10 billion and then it's 20, then okay, it's still double, but it's still only 20 billion. So the numbers there to China are very modest compared to Europe, of course, and I'm sure that it's not the spot price for Russia. Definitely not. They have to have a very big discount.
So gas is really the gas sanction would really hit. But I'm also one of the Germans who says, "Oh, be careful." You know, I mean, if you read our industry, then nobody will build up Ukraine anymore because we would get bankrupt, you know. I mean, that is really risky. I can understand gas is problematic in the sanction, and I don't think it will come so fast. I mean, this is really, I mean, our whole steel industry, chemical industry, glass, and whatever we have, and all the ones who are behind that are depending on the gas. And if we have to first deliver gas, I mean, you know, it's all in Europe the same, first deliver it to the people. So nobody's sitting in cold rooms, and then to the industry. And this really makes it hard next winter for us. What did I want to say? Is there any other questions? Because I have more. I can. Herr Salzberger. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very interesting, very insightful. I want to just more or less in general, what do you think would it take for the European Union to take measures, more integrative measures on the common energy market or also on the gas market, perhaps even eroding competencies in Article 194 in TFEU? Do you think a sudden drop in supply of gas, for example, because Putin, Russia would decide to cut it out because of war in Ukraine, perhaps has once again turned out not in their favor. Do you think that would be enough for an erosion of said competencies in the article?
Well, thank you very much. This is a really, really good question. It's really difficult to answer, and I think the current period is going to show. I fully agree. I mean, I think what we are waiting, what the EU is waiting for, but by not agreeing to any sanctions in natural gas, is the opposite to happen. I mean, this is just, for me, this is just a question of time, like whether the European Union will sanction Russian gas or Russia will sanction European gas. I will just stop supplies. And I think we are seeing it. I think what is happening now, they're testing the waters now with the 60%, and then they will see what will happen. They were testing what, like previously, they were testing water with the stupid idea of paying in rubles, and then they with the big fireworks, they stopped supply to two countries which decided to stop importing anyway. I mean, Poland and Bulgaria. I mean, there was still half a year before they were wanting to stop, etc. So there were some hardship, but they still just stopped to those that they already said that they will stop importing. And I'm sure they can sell this very nicely for domestic audiences as some big win. So I think that now they are testing what is happening in Europe. I read something kind of semi-panicky yesterday, but or day before yesterday, but yesterday and today things seems to be kind of less panicky. So I'm not sure what it means now. But if there will be a bigger drop, then probably also countries like Germany will change its position, because if the economy is depending on this, and there is not really, of course, the economy is depending on natural gas, but if there is not really a lot of willingness to shut it down, but it's going to be shut down anyway. So probably also German government will be looking for different ways how to deal with this issue, and maybe common approach will be one of them. Because there is already some kind of a midterm plans to get rid of gas. So maybe they will just push the plans a little bit towards 2023. It's really difficult to say what all of this means.
Yes, obviously. Thank you so much.
But we will need, I mean, there will be need of change of the article, obviously, but there is a lot of talk about new basic treaty anyway. So maybe in short 10 years we will have a new contract, new treaty, because usually it takes like 10 years at least.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Mila, do you want to ask a question, or is that just a...
I do have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting. I have a rather provocative question, especially in the German context. So is it possible to decouple from the gas in the long run without investing into baseload? So meaning without investing into nuclear and coal? Especially having in mind that the demand for electricity in Europe will grow by, I think, almost 30% by the year 2050. I know there is a lot of discussion about this, and there are arguments for both sides. So it would be interesting to hear your perspective as someone coming from Slovakia, who is quite nuclear friendly, I would say. I was, by the way, 6 years ago in Mokovice. It was still under construction. Yeah, quite interesting. And also Rosatom was a partner there. So this is also something which is often not mentioned, that there are no capacities in Europe for building of new reactors, and it's mainly still again Russian capacities, and also for nuclear fuels. Thank you.
Thank you very much for wonderful questions. I'm happy to say that Mokote are still under construction. They were supposed to be finished by 2012, 2013, so they pushed the deadline a little bit, and plus the budget, of course, by 3 times. So I would start with the capacity, because there is not only Areva and Rosatom, there are so many other companies who are very, very happy to build new nuclear power plants. So even Canadians have their own type of reactors, which is actually in Romania, generating electricity from the 1990, I think, and quite happily. So there is a lot of capacity worldwide, and even I mean, the French capacity is quite okay, although also the Finnish Olkiluoto was recently finished. So after 12 or 13 years of delays too. So there are some problems also. I think, coming back to your baseload question, I think we need to stop thinking about baseload. That's I think the first, if I should also respond in a little bit provocative manner, because the baseload is based on the idea of baseload is based on the idea that we have a huge system with several main sources, and then there is a huge grid. I mean, grid with big capacity, and then there are smaller grids with smaller capacities, and so on and so on, and then the cable ends up in your home. Maybe we need to think more in an island situation with the smart grids, with smart meters, and these things that enables us to better incorporate the renewables. Because if you think again about renewables, is about the huge wind farm, that's basically the old system. You have a reactor or a huge wind farm that's the same. In our setting is 400 or 500 megawatts, so that's the same. You still need the huge grid to get to some substation, then to get another substation, and then to even other transformer, and then to your home. So maybe I think we need to kind of switch from all of this into a little bit different, into smart grid thinking, more islands. I know that then the problem is how to deal with the big consumers, like, for example, furnaces and stuff like that, or big factories in general. But I'm sure there is a solution to that. So if we are thinking about base loads and how to incorporate renewables into base loads, we will always have a problem with capacity. We'll always have a problem with backup and with those things. So maybe we should rethink this a little bit, how the grid architecture, and then there will be some more problems, but at least, those are different problems than these that we don't really have an answer to. So, and for example, Germany is very good with using nuclear for secondary regulation. In Slovakia, like, no, like, this is something that this is taboo. You should not talk about regulation and nuclear. They say that it will just blow up, which is not true, because Germany is using the same type of reactors for secondary regulation. and it works fine. There is just one big problem that, you know, you cannot sell the electricity if you are not using it. So if you are not going on a base load, you don't have 100% for 11 months, and then, you know, shut down for maintenance for a month, and then again 100%. Then it goes up and down, and you are losing money. So maybe this is the reason why they don't want to. I'm sure this is the reason why they don't want to do that. Plus, they don't have the human capacity, because the system is not set in many countries for this thinking. So the licensing would have to be done again for this flexibility, which is not really wanted. So they don't want to really do that. Coming back actually to capacity, there was a report by International Energy Agency about the commissioning of reactors in Central and Eastern Europe, and with the focus on Slovakia. And one of the main problem identified was that there are no experts. There are not enough experts on the commissioning. So, and in basically the whole EU. So this is one of very big problems, how we are going to decommission things. I mean, those reactors that we are already decommissioning without proper stuff. So this is really big problem. And after it has been decommissioned for 16 years already, and they haven't even touched the reactor yet. So this is going to last for a couple of more decades, obviously. Yeah, they were just doing PR because they get rid of their last steam generator, which is secondary or tertiary. I'm not so sure which circle, but secondary, I think. So they are still quite far away from the reactor vessel. So this is going to take forever, especially if they don't have people. So thank you very much for questions, wonderful questions.
Thank you, Mila. You know, I'm German, I would have another answer for nuclear energy, you know, just say, look at France, 50% are off because they are either broken or with that summer, just yesterday, there were coming the news that not enough cold water, so and I'm not saying anything more to that nuclear. Well, thank you very much. I think we are running out of time. Thanks, Matúš, a lot for these really good insights and ideas and information, very rich. Thanks a lot. To all of my students who are here, thank you for joining, asking questions, and we will see each other next week with another talk about Ukraine war and the EU. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye till next week.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Thank
Matúš.
you.
Bye.